Welcome into our ESPN FC World Cup studios with Stuart Holden, Tommy Smith. I am Max Bredos. Day 8. Where is the time going?
It flies when you're having a good time, doesn't it?
I am having a good time. You having a good time?
Well, I'm having a great time, Tommy. How about you?
Is that your time? He is having a good time.
Yeah, I know. I can see.
Group D wraps up on Friday when Costa Rica takes on Italy. In the meantime, Uruguay stay firmly in the run for those top two. England not eliminated, guys, although they need a lot of help to make through. And we look at when England loses twice in World Cup group play, and we thought we had some high expectations, Tommy, for this team, and they have not matched them.
No, they certainly haven't. I mean, the problem with the English team is there are too many players of the same calibre on the field. I mean, there's nobody on that team that you can say, OK, he's the man that's going to lift the team and he's the man that's going to win a game for you. You just couldn't depend on any of them. I mean, Stevie G used to be the man. He just doesn't have it anymore. It's
a young team, though. Certainly, this is a team you would imagine building for 2016, 2018.
Yeah, it's interesting because typically in English press and English fans in general are slightly pessimistic towards their team. I think the overall sentiment is that they have an exciting young generation of players coming through. Did we see flashes of that in this tournament? Yes, but ultimately not enough experience.
Sure, they've had that for the last 100 years, so they have a young
We're always going to get that in England, but
through.
I think there is exciting players coming through.
Yeah, there are.
If you look at Chamberlain, Welbeck, Sturridge, you know, all these young players are very exciting, but not good enough in this tournament for me.
I don't want to bury the lead. Obviously, that would belong to Luis Suarez, who put his hand up, perhaps his best player in the world. We'll talk about him shortly, but let's bring in Gab Marcotti, who... Well, Gab, we don't have Gab right now, but let's talk about Luis Suarez. Think about what he's overcome, Tommy, considering the suspension to start the season, and then he hits the ground running in the Premier League, and he hits the ground running in the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. This man has ability. He just has to keep his nose clean.
But he has over the last year.
Yeah, he has.
Seems like he's shaking that.
I would hate to be in his boots going back now to play. The Scousers are not going to like him at all. He may be playing well for Liverpool, but it'll take them a few games again.
They'll love him straight off the bat, Tommy.
After they knock England out of the World Cup, they are not going to love him at all.
He's truly a man on fire at the moment. 5 goals in 7 World Cup appearances and 31 Premier League goals in 33 games. I mean, he's got to be up there in the conversation as best players in the world. You know, you put him next to the Ronaldos and the Messis currently, because Suarez and a Liverpool team that was not expected to challenge for a Premier League title, they were up there this season, and largely in part due to him.
Well, he scored 31 goals for them, but you know, you say, OK, he's keeping his nose clean. Yeah, he dirtied his bib last time at the World Cup when he handled the ball.
It was 4 years ago.
Yeah,
come on, forgive and forget.
Wait a minute, then he kept his nose clean for a while, and then he bit somebody during the game, and now he keeps his nose clean for another while. What does he do next? That's the question. If he continues playing like he's playing now, yes, he will be considered one of the greatest in the world.
It is the gorilla in the room. There's no doubt about it. People are waiting for the next time to step out, but in defense of Suarez, he hasn't.
I tell you what, if he wants to sit out 6 games for me and then score 31 goals, I will take that any day of the week, Tommy.
Let's go back to England. Obviously, this is a huge disappointment. Maybe the kids weren't all right just yet, Tommy, to make the impact. How much does this fall on Roy Hodgson's shoulders?
Yeah, I don't think that you can say too much of it. I mean, OK, you could make a case for maybe a couple of other players that can, but I think he thought he was doing the right thing. They're just not good enough. I mean, and every time people say, yeah, they have a great generation of players coming on, but it also turns out that other countries have great generations of players coming on, and they just happen to be fit to beat England. They're better than England at it. So what can I tell you? You can bring out all the generations you want to.
We'll show you the generations in other games shortly, because it is quite impressive.
Yeah, I think it's the back four for me, for England. You know, going forward, really exciting. You know, we can talk about all the talents they have, how well they all did in the Premier League this season, but again, you know, the center halves, 2 of the goals that were peeled off by the strikers and finished with headers, and, you know, too many soft goals, I think, at this level.
I mean, Jagielka stood and watched Suarez get behind him. I mean, there is no way that you can do that. You have to react somehow, even if you just push him or something.
Yeah, you always got to be within touching distance of the striker.
And he wasn't.
You know, Suarez just slightly drifted off him. A wonderful ball from Cavani, who had too much time on the ball inside the 18-yard box, and Suarez is not going to miss from there.
Hey, 2 goals in 2 games for England. You'll take that, but your defense, as you guys said, has to be a little tighter. So England's not out of the running, but they need a lot of help.
But, you know, I think one of the problems, Max, not to interrupt
England?
Yeah, I think they've only scored 2 goals. The last time they did it was in 1990 against Cameroon in a game. Would that be true? I mean, they don't score 2 goals. They don't score 2 goals in many games. That's one of the problems.
There you go. His cup runneth over with England information.
Yeah.
But let's look at Italy, Costa Rica. in what is going to be a big day for CONCACAF. Honduras also in action, but Italy, Costa Rica. The Italians certainly appear to be the favorites in the group, but the Ticos, should we underestimate that group?
The Ticos surprised a lot of people in the first game again and made a Uruguayan team look really average. But we saw the better performance from Uruguay today, and I think that Italy are going to be too much for Costa Rica. Too much class. Pirlo was pulling the strings in midfield again. I mean, he's an unbelievable player, and a player I've always admired throughout my career, and I think that they're going to have too much for Costa Rica.
Any chance for Costa Rica?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Italy need to run the table to help England. If they run the table, you know, they help England, if England can beat Costa Rica. But then the Italians might just happen to have a convenient draw in the last game, which would knock the English out of there. I'm not saying they'll do it now. Don't get me wrong. We've seen it before. Convenient draws happen all the time in World Cup play. This could be another convenient draw in the last day.
I saw Balotelli tweeted as well that if Italy beat Costa Rica, he wants to request a kiss from the Queen.
And why not?
Why?
Isn't she gorgeous?
Yes, it has, but it's good that he's got his nose to the grindstone with regards to Twitter. Good stuff. We welcome in Gab Marcotti. And Gab, we just saw the Colombians breathtaking at times. How far can this team go in this tournament?
You know, it's absolutely unbelievable if you look at the attacking lineup that Colombia put out there. You know, you mentioned some of the starters who've been so effective. Teo, Cuadrado, James Rodriguez. They still have on the bench, they can bring on guys like Jackson Martinez, like Adrian Ramos, who of course just moved to Borussia Dortmund, like Baca from Sevilla, who was injured for this game, like Quintero, who came on. They're a scary team. I think the main question mark will remain at the back, where you have Mario Shepes turning back the years. I think he's 37, 38, something like that. You've got Zapata, not perhaps the most solid central defender. That's the main concern. But in a tournament thus far, defined by attacking prowess, Colombia are right at home.
And you mentioned Mario Yepes, and he got caught flat-footed a couple times late in that game with Ivory Coast. But if we know this team can probably go pretty far, but are they a side that can compete for a World Cup final or a World Cup without having a guy like Radamel Falcao? Can those guys who might fill in the gap get the job done?
I don't think the absence, I mean, as phenomenal as Radamel Falcao is, firepower or lack thereof is not the problem for this team, in my opinion. Certainly would they be better off with him, but the issues, I think, are further back and perhaps a little bit in midfield. Although, remember, they still have guys like Freddy Guarin not fully fit to come back into the team. They'll have the luxury. They'll be able to rest players in the third game if they choose to do so. So I think Colombia right now in really, really good shape.
Guys, let's bring in the discussion here for Ivory Coast. Again, I mentioned it, probably the best bet for Africa to get in the knockout stages. What can they take away from this experience?
Well, I think one thing that they have to start doing is, and I don't believe that I've ever said this, they've got to take Drogba on quicker. They have to bring him into the game quicker. I mean, this is a case of where, you know, when he comes into games, he changes the games for them. Ivory Coast have looked pretty good going forward. I think they'll finish second in this group.
Sabri Lamouchi, the coach for Ivory Coast, says, I'd like to bring in Didier Drogba, but I can't. He hasn't played a full 90 minutes in quite some time. So can you take that risk at this point?
Yeah, I would rather have Drogba from the start. Get all-time country's all-time leading scorer. You got to have him on there. You know, play with two up front. Play with him and Bony. Gradel's been ineffective for me. I would rather see those two up front. Toure underneath. I think they create a lot more chances. But they've looked very susceptible at the back, and Colombia exposed them today. A lot of caught in possession when they were trying to play out. Just silly. You can't give away silly goals like that and expect to advance far in the tournament.
Gab, wanted to get your thoughts on England. Where do the three Lions go from here?
Well, I think you're going to see a generational change. I mean, Roy Hodgson's going to stick around, but I think, you know, they're going to inevitably continue and try to build on some of the good vibes. Now, they still have a small chance to qualify. I think mathematically it's something like 12.5%, which isn't horrible, but of course it's out of their hands. So I think right now they need to go win this third game, keep a lot of the good vibe that they had after the opener, even though they were defeated by Italy, and try to build on that after this World Cup. I do think they got a little bit carried away early on, but I still feel that they are, generally speaking, on the right path. It's just that it's a path with a really, really long way to go.
And it will end, it would appear, after one more game here in Brazil. But looking at Group D, Gab, how do you see the chips falling? Who are your top teams in order to get through?
Well, I mean, I think right now you would think Italy are a little bit in the driver's seat. They're deeper. There's obviously favorites against Costa Rica. Although we've seen Italy falter against some of the supposedly weaker sides in the past. I would lean towards Italy and Uruguay at this stage, which of course would set up some interesting confrontations and possibly a South American CONMEBOL derby with Colombia for Uruguay in the next round.
Do either of these teams have a chance of leapfrogging Ivory Coast and making to the knockouts, Tommy?
Well, if they do, it'll be a big surprise. I mean, okay, Japan seemed to come alive at times today and they showed us some of that entertainment. And but for a little bit of bad finishing, they would have 3 points out of this thing, but they let it get away from them. But I don't think they'll catch them.
No, I can't see either of those teams. You know, they have some talented players, some players that play at some big clubs, but just that lack of that finishing touch, you know, it wasn't there today, and I don't think I can see Ivory Coast being too strong, and Colombia have looked fantastic.
And disappointing from Japan. The Greeks down to 10 men, and Japan, who entertained us so much, left us with a bad taste in their mouth from their football.
Yeah, it certainly did. I mean, you should be fit to beat a 10-man team, especially he got the red card in the 38 minutes, so you have a portion of the first half and you have all of the second half to get a goal, and you don't get it. You really don't deserve to win.
All right, but they'll still have a chance to extend their World Cup on another day when they wrap up Group C play. Much more here on ESPN FC and our World Cup studios. Make sure you tune to us. Check your local listings. Also go to our website, espnfc.com. It's got everything you need and more. Second run of games in Group E tomorrow. Honduras will take on Ecuador. The game we have our eyes on, guys, it's Switzerland and France. That will be in Salvador. Both European teams coming out victorious, both hoping to stay online to get top spot.
Yeah, I think they will too. I mean, I know the Swiss left it very, 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 very late. Did I say very late?
That was four varies.
Very late, yeah. I think this one will end up being a draw, and I think these two teams will just continue on through this group.
These are the two teams that make it through?
Way to remain neutral, Tommy.
Yeah, I'm remaining neutral. Yeah.
Watch it.
I'm going to go with the French. I was very impressed with them against Honduras, and you know, Benzema led the line, was denied a hat-trick by the rules of the game, but you know, I really less France and looking a much stronger team than 4 years ago when they went out in the group stage.
Okay, now the Swiss will feel a little jilted here because they are the seeded team there, and they got a victory against an Ecuadorian team where all the other South American teams are winning, but France is getting all the ballyhoo for being a team that can win it all. Do you think they can?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
sorry I asked that question, Tommy.
We've heard this about France before. We've seen
and they've won it, and they almost won it a second.
Yeah, they almost won it a second.
I'm big for France.
Yeah, well, you may be big for France. What do I care? I think that France will go a bit into this tournament, but I mean,
semi-finals?
Yeah, maybe semi-finals. But if they come up against an Italian team or one of them, they're not going to beat them.
Okay.
But why don't you think France are a good team? You know,
I didn't say that they're not a good team. I just don't think that they're good enough to win it. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I watch Benzema every weekend. I watch him every weekend, and he is as unpredictable as the day is now.
That's fair.
He had a great year for Real Madrid. They won the Champions League. He led the line for them.
But he had a great game the last game. But there are games where he does not show up. Believe me. Take my word for it. Check it.
Are you confident that he can deliver game in, game out?
Personally, I think he had a pretty successful season for Real Madrid. You know, a team that has a ton of talent. He was the constant go-to man for them, and I think he's going to have a big tournament. You
two have done a fine job of getting everyone excited for that game tomorrow.
Good.
Well played. That's what we're in this business for. For Gab Marcotti, Stuart Hall, and Tommy Smith, I'm Max Predos. We'll see you on Friday. TGIF show.